All right, so we have Tari versus Firouzja, beautiful win in late 2020 by Firouzja. And I'll just pull it up on lead chess. Easier to look at. Okay, so we have e4, c6, b4, d5, Khan. Takes, the exchange variation. Not the most exciting, but he makes it exciting with his bayonet. So we're looking at the bayonet attack, but not right out of the opening, right? He's gonna, the nice thing about this is not your typical, like from the King's Indian. This is preparing it very creatively. Okay, so this is typical to go queen c7. Actually, it's directed against bishop f4, which could be annoying. That's a big part of it. Okay, so bishop simply retreats. And we were looking at that earlier. Bishop retreating to d7. Of course, the thing you'd expect is coming this way, right? But hey, maybe he doesn't want to block his bayonet to come. So here comes the knight, keeping an eye on e5. We don't need that. Comes out of Scandinavian a lot too. Knight goes to e5, bishop f4. Very annoying. We don't need that. e6, and we can get our bishop on d6. And hey, who knows? Maybe later on we can punch him in the center. Take an isolated pawn, that's fine. Great activity once we castle. It's always in the air, but he's just keeping it real solid. Except for the fact that he can allow double pawns, but I don't think he cares about that. Why do you guys think he doesn't really care about this?
Well, it keeps the knight out, and you got the bigger center.
Yeah,
and
knight on e5. Anything else?
He has a lot of space. He's blocking e4 and c4.
Yeah, controlling a ton of stuff. If you need to, you can play b6, control c5. Like, where is white going? Oh, they're going here. If you really need to, you can play f5. But here's the thing: how does he actually get there? Probably queen c2. Actually, that's the only thing I can see. That could get interesting. I don't know if we have knight b4 check and the king over, but I think and then make the queen leave, but then they take our knight. That's messy. We can always play f5 if we need to block it. We can even play h6 and move the king. But certainly if they want to go out of their way, you can play f5. And then we have to see the knight b4. Oh no, we need rook c8. Then we have knight b4 ideas. So just to give you an example, you might want to go f5, but we can also use a g file. That's the last thing I was going to mention, right? So Nick, you got the other ones I was thinking of, and Lynn. Yeah, and now what do? So for example, instead they go like that, you can play rook ac8, and now the knight b4 idea to exploit c files. That's another thing. Queen on c7 kind of directed against white. Maybe they go rook here. Let's say they go rook 81. Now we have it. See? So they have to go back if they want. I mean, rather if they go back, they're going to give us the bishop pair, which is pretty nice here. Or they can simply take it, and then we take, and we're very happy with that. Again, bishop pair, rook's invading, pawns are split. That's about to fall. A3, take that. So you can see that could be pretty bad. So yeah, he doesn't mind it, This has happened before. We have our game right here, and we have a much stronger play with black, and they're drawing actually. So but they both castled, so not afraid of that. Okay, knight goes to d2, knight h5. So now we're beginning to see this marshaling of our forces over to the king side to f4, right? Even bishop comes to f4 sometimes to trade off the bishop and come into f4 with the knight. Kicks the bishop out. But see, this is where he makes a very deliberate decision to play on the king side. Now, actually, based on the pawn structure, traditionally, hey, black's pawns are aiming toward the queen side, white's aiming toward the king side. So traditionally, you might go for, you guys know what the minority attack would happen. How would the minority attack be carried out? Because we have 2 against 3 on the queen side. So how do we carry it? What's the basic way in which you carry out a minority attack?
Be like rook b8, and then run that guy up, run up the b pawn.
Yeah, exactly. There's a nice Reshevsky game like that where he ends up trading it, and then he targets the d pawn. So he creates effectively an isolated d pawn. It's not on a half open file, but he ends up going like queen b6. I think the rook can come laterally and stuff like that. And at any rate, you're going to open up the b file, a half open b file. You can push the a pawn, kind of work in tandem. We looked at that a bit earlier with the game we analyzed. So yeah.
Would it be silly to play b5 right away?
Not necessarily. No, not really, because I'm not sure if it works tactically, but if the queen takes, you're probably looking at this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you have that.
well,
If
actually,
bishop takes, you have this, right?
yeah.
However, I think they have that.
Ah,
They have
okay.
queen a4 guarding, getting out of. I think so. Of course, it's worthy of analysis. I mean, hey, it's exchange sack. I doubt it. I doubt that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not enough. I don't think. There's bishop b5. I doubt it's enough. No, that's hanging. Never mind. No, the knight. Yeah, you just like, go back, or there's nothing there. Yeah, it's not worth it, I think. But anyway, no, worthy of looking at. But certainly, as you said, rook b8 first. But a lot of times, like if you're attacking, let's say the king is on the castle queen side, we'll often just give away. We'll chuck our b pawn, right, Nikki?
And chuck it at him.
Chuck it at him, right, and offer it up, like again in the Sicilian often. The Chinese dragon actually features rook b8 first in b5. Anyway, that's a bayonet, right? So there's a bayonet again, right? But Firouzja is going for the g5 bayonet. So we get, and again, that's where he's making a decision here, because the traditional thing might be going for b5. But he's like, well, I'm going to try something out. Partially made possible by that dark square pressure. Because like, you don't just randomly go g5, but what if g5 anchors the knight or bishop? And then g5, and also, how does the knight f3 and pawn h3 also create a precondition? These are preconditions for the attack. It's interesting. So if you look at Art of Attack in Chess, at least the version I have, there's a section within a chapter on preconditions for attack. I think it's like attack throughout different phases of the game or something. And preconditions are and commitment. So g5 is a commitment. b5 is a commitment, right? Especially if you're going to sack the pawn, right, Nikki?
Right.
Oh, there's also no, that's bishop takes. Yeah, queen takes. You also have rook b8 if you want. That's always possible. Usually.
That's actually what I was thinking instead.
Oh yeah, but this is sneaky. That's a sneaky one, right?
Yeah,
You also have,
yeah.
yeah, that's very common too. And then c3 is weak. But yeah, you're committing even there. Like in a Roy Lopez, black goes a6 b5. Hey, white's going to hit him with a4 almost always. That's a commitment. Queen's gambit accepted. a6 b5 or Slav c6 b5 stuff. That's a commitment. Weakened squares. Obviously g5. Well, just like that. G takes f6, but I think we're a little more kind of clumped together, like a mass of pawns. Yeah, so g5, you want to be prepared, but he has preconditions. Pressure on the king side with the pieces, even though the pawns are aiming the other way, but you can see he starts kind of modifying his structure as long as he doesn't drop the e-pawn. There's your beginning, your commitment. He's beginning his commitment with f6. He's weakening that square. That can matter. Now he can't really, but he sees that white can't get to it. You have here, rook a8, you have king f7 in some cases later on, usually. Watch out for that guy. But yeah, you can pretty much hold it all right. And you might even have e5 again, e5, e4. Maybe you get your king out of the way and stuff, and you start pressing in the center. Or we get our g5 as you did in the game. Now, what's another kind of justification? Again, precursor or precondition, but it's justified because of what's going on with the knight and the pawn, knight f3 and pawn h3. How does that help us play g5 or make it more viable, more impactful? Just visualize in general, without concrete lines, but just in general.
Well, if the knight was to move, then that would be bad for white.
Assuming we got g4 in.
Yeah.
And why is that bad for white?
Well, because
I think you're right, but why?
You got a battery with the bishop and the queen, and if he leaves, then it could almost be over.
Well, particularly if we switch sides. Like if we were here, sometimes you bring rook out, maybe bishop tucks back on b8 or c7. If you switch the pieces, that's even more potent, right? They'll often go knight f1 actually. But then we're really forcing them to do some passive defense. Karpov, we've talked about Karpov going knight f8, right? Knight f1. Hey, Roy Lopez Italian game, you often shift this way. That'd be more defensive though. But if they need to, it's a little less dangerous because of this. But hey, that is relevant later. Also, what if they go g3? You might have a sack on g3. Maybe the check combined with like a knight mate on f2. Who knows? There's a lot of stuff there still in, even if you don't get a mate right away. But what about the effect of g4? How does that? Why would he like that? Maybe king h8. There are a few benefits, but in particular, like why is that working more with the pawn on h3? Simply the inclusion of the pawn. Again, we could go g5, g4, gain space, kick the knight, but this is kind of more attractive to have the pawn on h3 for creating the conditions for bayonet. Why is that?
That like a Hook pawn.
Kind of a fork, yeah. It's like it's not a fork that wins a piece, but it's like a fork that forces open lines, right?
Yeah. I was just wondering, is that like a fork and a hook pawn? Like, I don't know. I remember somebody saying something about a hook
Yeah,
pawn.
I think that right. I forgot about that term. I think you can call it a hook pawn, sort of, yeah. So it's like a hook for us to latch onto favorably for us, I guess, for us to destroy. But yeah, we're ready to just smash it open. It's kind of like I've heard someone describe it's like, oh, you're forking them. I mean, it's not a fork, again, it's not a fork to win a piece, it's a fork to break open a line effectively, right? Which might be better than winning a piece in many cases. Maybe we'll give up a piece and we're gonna have our rooks coming, right? Rooks doubling somewhere. I think he ends up doubling like that, actually. You'll see just a little foreshadowing. He's gonna double on G7, G8, have a knight or bishop on F4, pawn on G5, and keep in mind that with the pawn on G5, it may end up taking on F4 if it needs to, opening up the line. If it doesn't have to take on F4, like if a bishop doesn't take or something, then it might go break through the G4. Well, then here come our pieces, unleashing their potential energy against G2 and so forth. So let's see how it happens. But knight H5 is really, I think, a creative move. And you can see here, it's like a novelty, it looks like, because this has been played, well, it's only been played twice. So this, yeah, I mentioned this move has been done twice. And then in the other game, they went queen c2. So this is the divergence. Queen c2 and then h6. Okay, are they going for the bayonet? I don't think so. That's why they didn't win. Oh no, they're doing it. Maybe he looked at this and got some idea. No, this is 2021. Okay. So maybe this person kind of I'm sure they were familiar. I imagine they were familiar with the Firouzja game, but they weren't able to pull it off. Oh, they're doing it differently. Maybe they went like G5. I don't know about F5. I think I prefer what Firouzja did with knight F4, as you'll see. But you can get a quick glance at that. Now it's more like a kind of a quasi Stonewall Dutch, right? Basically Stonewall Dutch, a little bit different than you might get, and he's hoping to activate his bishop as he does. And he really would like this, but you can see there's pressure on the pawn here on D5 and stuff. Not ideal, really. But he's creating a square for the knight. He's latching onto some dark light squares. So you can see he didn't end up getting enough, but he looks like he might be pressing a bit. But I just don't think he never got his bayonet in, did he? Let's see. He's got to try G5 if he wants it in. I think it's a little more open though. Target again on here. Remember in the other game, Firouzja was guarding that target. Yeah, he could try and go for it like in a Dutch, G5, G4. Jordan, you're there, right? Are you still there? Or is Jordan gone? Jordan's not there. Jordan likes to play the Dutch. Not the Stonewall, though, but you'll see his Stonewall in particular, yeah, it gives you some options for that. There are even lines with B6, bishop B7. And you might play G5 or you might play F5 or both. Anyway, so he did something similar there, but it was F5 instead of G5. Oh, that's not, sorry, this game. That's our game. There's F6. And now keep an eye out for that ominous queen X-raying here against our knight. By the way, a lot of times if there's a pawn here, you know the trick where the knight takes. So you have to be careful about knight H5 because if they have the queen aiming or a bishop aiming, got to watch out for that trick if they have E4, E5 scenarios. When you both try and get an F5, F4. Kasparov talked about the benefit of that. Okay, so G5, C4. Very appropriate. When you see an attack on the flank, what should you generally do?
Back in the center.
Counterattack in the center, which is exactly what he does. Probably the only way to do it right now is all I see. No other really ways to strike in the center. There you go. Get out of the center and get away farther from the center and prepare rook G8. There it is. So naturally, rook C1, pointing at the queen, but doesn't care. So all you see is there's nothing concrete. It's kind of like sometimes, with a Luft, like prophylactic move, right? Moving the queen away. Luft is a prophylactic move, but sometimes you just don't do it because you're really focused. You're focused on your attack. You're taking a slight risk by not doing it, but you don't want to waste that tempo sometimes. It's good to do in general, yes, but sometimes it's just, hey, you gotta get going. Here it comes. Now he finally gets out of the way. Interestingly, though, he's provoking. There you go. There's a bayonet by white. Lots of bayonets on all sides. Natural shifting, again, marshaling our forces to the king side. So it's quite interesting, right? Queen D6. I'll move away from the moves now because we're already out of the opening. But yeah, Queen D6. provoking c5. Now that's really interesting. He does go c5. Now, why do you think he doesn't mind? Again, he doesn't care about certain things that white wants to do.
Yeah.
Why does he not care about this aggressive looking move? Actually, this goes back to 2 games in the first World Championship. We should look at those. I don't think we have. Actually, that would be a great class, great topic, I think, to understand Steinitz's games and his so-called kind of science of chess. I think he was a doctor, if I recall, and trying to make a science of chess. Anyway, so he understood the game far deeper than Zuckertor, and this was 86, and I think again 89. But yeah, there are 2 scenarios where Zuckertor actually bypasses. So he's using that theory. Not to say it's always bad, but it's very slow for white. And why do you think this is kind of against what white wants and what black wants?
Are they overextended?
Arguably, although it's kind of hard to do anything about it, in terms of
Yeah.
actually
Attacking.
striking at these. Now, before this video, we briefly looked at the King's Indian, the line where we allow e5, where we don't even play d6, we allow e5, kind of like Alekhein's defense, and we try to prove, or the Austrian attack against the Perk, where they go f4, d4, all the central pawns, including the f pawn, and we try to prove that they're overextended. Interestingly, though, we can't really do anything about the pawns in terms of winning them, or even exploiting squares. Like if you go b6, they bypass, then you got d6. If you go a6, maybe a6, they could probably go a4. They got that pretty fluid there. Can push or just hold them with a4. So not necessarily that, although it may come to pass in some point. What else? There are some weaknesses, but it's also, think about what white wants, going back to what he did originally with g5, how he reacted, and how this is kind of against the spirit of that. Remember what he did originally? Think of his original plan, rationale for this.
What's the question again? Sorry.
Oh, why is it not good? How is it going against what he wants by going rook c8? I'm sorry,
Rook c8.
c5. Think about that.
Oh, he's closing the file. Maybe. No, that's not it. Okay, never mind.
Yes, that's one thing, because c4 would create counterplay. Well, one is the center, second is the queenside, kind of adjacent to the center, creating c-file play.
Oh, I see.
But what about c4 itself? Like directly with c4, what's it doing?
You can't control it anymore.
Control what?
C4. I mean, he doesn't possess it. He doesn't have a pawn that can control it.
Well, that's true. It's a weak. Well, actually,
he can't position
actually,
like.
to be fair, it's already weak after b4.
Well, yeah, he can't like bring his bishop to c4 anymore.
Well, you'd hope to do so after what might happen. Remember the previous game where black didn't get to win? They weren't able to pull off the win when they took, and then the knight occupied d5 and stuff, right? But then white was able to get c4, and the knight wasn't doing that much, and there was e-file pressure with the bishop out of the way, not guarding. So that didn't work out so well. And white did get to c4. Now here, black won't necessarily get to c4. But what does white want? White with this c4 move. One is the pressure on the c-file. Remember, like we said, best response to attacks, generally speaking, on the flank is a counterattack in the center. Now he's counterattacking on the queen side. He's committing to the queen side. See how there's a huge commitment.
Okay.
So what's going on? Do you see what I mean now?
That's my
What's he
last
give?
chance here. It's my last attempt, but maybe
Okay.
his control of the center is no longer an issue. Like he's
Control
not-
/ attempting to fight at least for it. And now, oh, you mean the control for black? Black's
no,
control?
like white's not attacking in the center.
Right, it's kind of undisputed there. It's undisputed, this light square control. And then the dark square, look, like f6. Remember we talked about gf6, g takes f6, covering e5. Well, f6 covers e5. I think, again, really the problem is e6, potentially. But bishop d7 seems to do a good job of holding it. And hey, like I said, e5, that's foreshadowing what's to come. We can strike in the center if we need to, which might actually enhance our kingside attack. You don't always want to, though. Okay, queen c7. G3. Well, that's a problem. I feel like he made two big inaccuracies in a row. Like, look, he didn't, I mean, to be fair, like he didn't see this coming probably, like this bayonet. He maybe should have because he's played H3. There you go. There's a Luft not working out for him, right? But sometimes like in a King's Indian, you move your knight away and you play F3 and stuff, make his job a little bit harder. Sorry, one second. All right. So he tucks the bishop back. Okay. Okay, be right there. All right. So King H8, I want you to think about after this. Okay, what to do now? What should you do now at this moment? Think about that.
Will the bishop just take G3?
It's G3. Bishop pawn takes G3. I also like G4.
But that hangs the bishop, right?
Yeah, and then we take his knight with check or something like that. Like so maybe, or we take
Mm.
maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% on that.
But that would be a good move too, Nikki.
I kind of like yours though, because bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes.
And then that's all, you know, it's
That looks pretty nasty.
a little nasty.
Okay,
I
what are you
like-
guys think that's nasty here?
So Lynn said bishop takes G3. And I said pawn G4, but I think I like Lynn's better because it's more direct.
Well, it's going to be a blend. Well, here's the thing, Lynn. If you go with bishop takes G3, okay, what's White's best defense?
I guess
Well, a reasonable defense. How's he hold?
Bishop blocks, I don't know.
Bishop can block.
Yeah.
Now maybe we combine that anyway, Nikki, right? And Lynn. Maybe both of you, right? We're gonna both do it hybrid. But yeah, the thing is we want to open the rook. So he chooses to do G4 first, and then he ultimately does, as I showed in the email, you see a picture with the bishop on G3 at the opportune moment, right? But so you're both right. It's just a matter of which one he chose to do first. And let's see what the
Hey, Lynn, we're both right.
Yeah, you're both right. Computer, oh, wait. Computer is oscillating between the two. It went back and forth. So it hasn't made it. I don't think it's for sure. I think like G4 says -1, bishop takes G3, minus 0.8. It's figuring it out, right? So you're both correct in terms of what he did and in terms of, well, you know, I think objectively, but also in terms of the computer. So on multiple counts. Okay. So G3. Yeah, but the thing about this is, again, the impact is greater with the G file, right? I think I'm gonna have to finish pretty soon. We're doing a Friendsgiving thing, but so we'll just quickly look at this. But you want to see the finish. It's nice. But now you got the idea though as to how he picks up the attack, right? Now there we go. Like I said, E5,
Okay.
very, very
Yeah.
strong. All right. So we got E5, bishop takes D7, queen takes D7. So that was slick, right? So he's getting what he wants. He got the break in. And I do not think he would have liked to take F4. That's disgusting, right? And he's got the piece back, plus he could come in. Yeah, that's a lot. He doesn't want to help him get in there, right? So because of this, to go back, it's like, oh, I got a tempo. Well, by the way, this is not even hanging anymore. And Lynn, we could take at will, right? And now it is hanging, sort of, if he wants. I don't know if he wants to, but he can take it because the king's out of the way, no longer pinned. So he can take the bishop on F4, E5, nice move. So that's where he strikes the center. But keep in mind, like we talked about, well, the best response to an attack on the flank is in the center. Now he's the one going in the center, but he's only doing so to enhance his kingside attack. Because remember, I talked about this bishop kind of passively defending E6. It actually was under attack. So if black just this will be no, where do you even retreat to? Like maybe here. Hey, maybe he could just do that. And I don't know if it's so bad for White anymore, because White has some solidity over here. Maybe he just like does something funny like that, and he doubles his rooks, and you know he might be fine, right? Like knight might come over to the king side and stuff. And hey, maybe those pawns end up paying off for him, right? Not to say it's terrible in the long run, but it was too much in the long run, to the extent that because he needed more immediate pressure, right? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
He needs to strike back. He just had to strike back there. and you can't wait. It's like a great example is a Sicilian. That's why a lot of people like a Sicilian, and why it's great to learn to know how to counterattack and be real sharp. Because white's going for that bayonet stuff. There you go, out of a Sicilian.
Yep.
G4, G5. Well, we looked again before the video. We briefly looked at G4 and Sicilian right away. But yeah, white will eventually go in a dragon a lot of times against the knight, or G4, G5, and black goes B5. So and that makes for really sharp attacks, because we're basically tit for tat trading barbs, right? G4, often it's G4, B5, G4, B4, and both the knights are hanging, right?
Mhm.
So anyway, but you have to be really, really decisive, quick and decisive here. So E5 is very interesting, because it's like, wait, you're breaking the principle. Why are you playing in the center? Well, he's doing so. Hey, he's gaining space. He's not hanging his pawn, and he's trading bishops. And why does he want the bishop trade? How does that further help black's attack?
All the-
What's
Well,
going to happen next?
The defender, I guess.
if he
Gonna move-
takes the
one here
bishop,
moves the defender of the king, the bishop, and two,
he gets to go. The queen takes the bishop at D7, and the queen gets to go right up there to
Bingo.
H3.
bingo. Yeah, H3 is coming. We're looking in here. We're looking at A. I mean, if we want to pick up a pawn,
And you can
we don't
even-
care about that right now, but it's there. He might care about it. But no,
we don't care
our
about
bishop's
that
hanging,
because-
so we want to make sure this works out for us.
Yeah.
Nice job. So he goes not H2. He's not going to take. I don't think he wants to take that. Well, that's a mate, isn't it? Check. Mate and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the knight blocks, not enough. There's 2 focal points, H2, G2. Two points on which he wants to mate white's king.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Now this is nice as well. You can't take, there's no mate on G2, but we're going to focus on our H2 focal point. You see that? I think it would be what? What do you guys think? I think it's going to be the rook move.
Yeah, I think it's the rook move too.
But in the right way. What's the right way to move the rook? Oh, actually, no, never mind. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I think that's right. You could take it, and you get you've already given away a knight. It's like, okay, you get the queen you get the queen and the rook for 2 rooks, but then you got like rook and knight for queen. It's murky. We want something more decisive. It's just over with. I think so. Is it that simple? Is it that simple? I don't know. Let's look at it quickly. What do you think I'm looking at?
Maybe
I
like
think
six or something.
What's
Rook
that?
G2.
No,
Yeah.
rook to
I'm trying to mate
G2.
on H2.
Yeah,
You
G,
Oh,
got
okay.
here because of mate.
right.
But I'm looking at, that's why I'm second guessing it, because I'm looking at this. You know what? I don't think it matters. We could take our time. Like, we don't need a mate on the next move. Like, that's, unfortunately, yeah, you just go E4. Like, everything's collapsing. He cannot take this because you mate. You can't move the knight because you mate. You can't move the knight because it's pinned. On the next move, we take the knight and then we mate. I don't know. I don't see anything. Oh man, wow, look at those pieces. That's too much. Takes two options. No, I'm not gonna. I can win the queen.
Yeah.
I like that. Ooh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Double checkmate with a rook.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Yeah, it is. If you want to get the rook, I mean, it's kind of fun, right? How often you get to mate by promoting to a rook, right? So anyway, queen E2, E4, nice move. And you see the ideas behind. Oh, my bad. Oh, we didn't look at E4 yet. Here we are. But we see ourselves coming in. Oh no, it's rationalizing Pontic's pawn, proving that works. And Pontic's bishop. Okay, so we saw that. Saw the sideline. Doubles up. Queen E2, not takes. Yep. Now he goes E4. Interesting. So he's simply gaining space, removing the pressure on the pawn, but very concretely, it's kind of like reverse move. And again, we talked about G4. What was the other move? It was either G4 or bishop sacks, right? Which still might happen. But the other one is E4. So remember, we looked at E4 after knight here, knight DF3. We had E4 to attack it and win the knight, basically with mate. Just everything, or take and take and take. But yeah, now he's keeping the knight out. And if he wants to go to F1, well, then he's all clustered and the rook's blocked, just discord in there, right? Oops, not going to do that. He actually sacks the knight back, is he? So knight F5. Why not? Let's come on in. Okay, every move we have to justify a sack. It's where he takes, queen takes. But what about, once again, How about just taking again here? Well, that's pretty concrete. Why can't he take? That's not really anything fancy.
Yeah, it's mate.
It's just mate.
Yeah.
That's it, because the rook has lifted. Not to mention the rook's hanging on c3. So too many x-rays that are dangerous. Okay, so what's going on? E4, rook c3. So let's just come on in. This reminds me actually of one of the Nepomniachtchi games where he should have beaten Ding. Remember that one where he had this massive kingside attack? I think it was where maybe he had the... I think he had a chance to really pull ahead and he messed it up, and that was definitely a blow psychological. And Nepo doesn't deal well with psychological blows in terms of regaining his composure, right? As we saw with game 6 or game 5, rather, against Carlsen, where once he had it, was it 137 moves? I'm mixing, or 127 or something.
Oh,
Because
that's that crazy one. The one I think it was like 100 and if it's the one I'm thinking
it
of,
was
it's
20
100.
something or 30 something. I forget.
Yeah, it was a lot.
He was maybe 127, but longest game in World Championship history. Yeah, and then he ends up beating him with the rook and knight versus queen with multiple pawns, destroys the structure, pawns run. Yeah, but Nepomniachtchi had something where he either did it or should have done it and would have had a really strong attack. And he like -2 or whatever, but he messed it up. So knight takes e4. But here, you know, maybe if Firouzja were to play inaccurately, White's counterattack could work. And interestingly, once he bought, there's another example, strike back at the center. And hey, if he makes it work out, then he has these pawns coming, right? So his counterattack with those pawns could ultimately help him a lot because he's got d5, d6, c6, 2 connected pass pawns coming. So he's got to be careful, but I think he knew that this was decisive. So knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes, bishop is still hanging. Now it is actually hanging. It's hanging to really be taken. Okay, then he's like, okay, you just gave up a piece. I'm gonna give up my piece. Why not? So it's 4. Let's see, we have 4 pawns, 6 pawns. Okay, it's like what? I'm down a pawn. I'm down a pawn. I'm threatening mate on h2 again. Problem is, you can't really take it very comfortably. What do we do? Rook takes. You could take the rook. Let's just say pawn takes. Well, that's pretty straightforward. What happens if pawn takes? Well, there might be, I mean, you might consider taking with the rook or the knight. Probably the knight. What do you think?
The knight would just go right up there and take him and check the king and fork the queen.
Right, you fork them, they gotta take, and then you smash, you just crash through. Let's see.
Right.
He's gonna take, you're gonna take, let's say he takes, you take. Well, we're just having an exchange and
Yeah.
coming through to mate him. Okay, like they could stop. Can they even stop the mate? Pretty hard. Do they have to go queen b1? Wait, they had what am are you threatening mate here? Oh, they have
But
no,
if
here they get
queen
mated.
goes
Yeah,
to
that's just
B1.
losing. I mean, you're up in exchange anyway. What's that?
No, I was just saying if queen went to b1, then
No, then it's mate again.
yeah, mate
Right.
again.
No, they can't stop both mates. They can't stop both. It's funny because they can't get on this diagonal. They can't get there. That's literally the only way. They can't go here. You take. They literally can only cover G1 that way, but then have to abandon, the queen. So that's just immediately losing if you crash through on G3. So what do? They ignore it, so they don't let the knight in that way. Rook goes to G2, but still not threatening anything. They're like, hey, I'm up a pawn, but they're about to get mated or lose significant material. I really like what he did here. Remember, he shifted over to the G file. Now he shifts back to the E file, and Tari resigns. Resigns, just like that.
That is cool.
Yeah,
That is
he's like,
cool, yeah.
and I really like. Remember, I talked about again. A lot of this game is about center versus or center and wing. So we have black going for the wing, then we have white going for the center and opting to shift to the wing, and then we have black going for the center, and the king side, and then back to the center. In addition to what he already had going on. But because he had such a strong attack on the king side, returning to the center ultimately favored him. So it was one of those scenarios where he had secured his position enough. Interestingly enough, f6 helps him a lot because otherwise you'd see counterattacks after like take, maybe I see counterattacks or something. So he's secured his king side just enough that he has a couple moves he has a tempo with rook e7. One more move, he's able to get in that move, and that's decisive. So you can see in the final position. But I really like that. It's very interesting. But I think Tari made 2 big mistakes, one of which was bypassing here, and the other one was how he handled the king side, the bayonet. Yeah, like G3, I don't know if that was necessary, but G3 was really, as we saw, that was lethal. Because you saw, as you said, both your ideas. We saw the bishop sack on G3, and we saw G4. So both your ideas in harmony, in tandem. Beautifully done, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love this game. It's just something, if I want to show someone maybe how to handle the Caro-Kann, you can see it's really not, I don't think these kinds of openings are very inspired, you know? Like, especially in a French, but to go ahead and just trade, it's like, okay. And again, we can say, hey, white has the pawn chain here, aiming at the king side, and black toward the queen side in the traditional play on the queen side. But interestingly enough, he showed that black can actually mix it up and attack him on the king side. Black has the leeway because white never got pressure. The way that white would often get pressure is like, you know, 95 and rook pressure and stuff, because he has the half open E file. It's like in a Sicilian where black has the half open C and white has the D. Here, white.
Here, Lynn, happy Thanksgiving.
All right, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to all
Happy
of you.
Thanksgiving, Lynn. See you next
Thank
week.
you.
Or if you can make, I don't know if we're gonna be on or not. We'll see. Maybe I'll hold it. But
Okay.
I'll let you guys know. Try and let you guys know ahead of time.
Okay.
See you, Lynn. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Enjoy.
Bye.
Yeah, enjoy the beautiful day. So yeah, it's not that inspired. What's the computer say? It says like plus 0.3. But I really think, especially if you're planning it, I don't know if you guys like this kind of stuff with white, but especially E6, D4, D5, takes, you know, like plus 0.2. It's like basically even. Score actually better for black in some case. Well, better for black after bishop d3. I mean, here after bishop f4. But for example, there are some lines, interestingly enough, the knight goes in front of the c pawn. I think, so let's say the main line, knight f6. No, you know, not even that necessarily.
Yeah, I always go bishop d6.
Yes, you don't need the pin, right? Let's just say they go bishop d3. And then there's this knight c6 line. I remember looking at this with my student. I'm like, oh, look at that score. Nice. 35, just for what it's worth. 35 versus 15 for black, in favor of black. Okay, let's say he castles, they castle, and we could do our bishop g4 or knight g7. Let's do that. Computer basically saying even, but you can castle queenside, interestingly enough.
Oh, not try to trade off that bishop. That's always my goal. But
You
I guess he's
can,
out.
you can, but we're gonna go queenside. Check this out.
Oh,
I think there's
okay.
actually a bayonet. That's funny. It's apropos. I think we could find a bayonet. Oh, there's a bayonet for white. Maybe they're intimidating him from going, but just to give you a sense, we can castle queenside now. Computer wants kingside, but we can go queenside too. There's your bayonet. Can we make it? Hey, look, there's that g6 to f5 stuff. We can play in the middle. Well, I mean, this is nothing here, so let's shift the rook to e8 if we want. There's your b5. Okay, black is, interestingly, black is scoring nicely here. Well, where is the play? Where's the play here? Bishop a3, f6. Let's see, he's going to get g5 in. I think sometimes they might. Okay, let's centralize everything. Nice square for the knight. Can we do it? Yes.
Oh,
There you
that's
go.
okay.
There you
This
go.
is like a good thing to try.
Yeah, it's funny that they happened. I kind of thought they
It's
might.
sharp. It's not like a
Yeah.
boring
Look at that.
Frank.
Once again, hey, double bayonet attack. Mutual bayonet. Funny, right?
Very cool.
Let's tuck it back. Are we gonna get our G4? Well, it can be a precursor to H5, H4. But this feels like a dragon now. I mean, not exactly here, but it feels like a dragon or modern or something in terms of being able to attack on the H file, apart from the center. But yeah, so you can check. Does he get with, let's move our pawns. Aha, the bayonet. It came up multiple times just kind of by happenstance. But it's useful. Now we have destruction of dark squares.
Oh,
Let's go after those dark squares. Okay. He doesn't ultimately get, you know, there's some interesting lines that Tall does. He does on the king side, he goes b6 before a5. Well, it's g5 in that case, but it would be here. G6, forcing pawn takes pawn, then a5, and trade it off, forcing open lines. So it'd be similar, you know, if he goes b6 first, takes. What often happens though is you can, no, here he just wins it. Even if you couldn't win it, you can bypass sometimes too. It's a good defense. But here it's just like take the pawn. And I think he can withstand that. There's not enough pieces to really, you know, create a big attack against black's king. And look at that nice knight, nice and tight. So we're both doing the thing against each other's kings with our pawn storms, but you already got a knight in there. His king is already open, very uncomfortable king. Our king is nice and snug. It's gonna be hard to get to him. So that's where we have our advantage. So how does he win this? They buy, oh wait, what? No, wait, wait. Yeah, here we are. They go b6, bishop d3, h4. Oh, we'd have to go back one sec. Computer eval minus 1.6, so really liking black. this is a, so again, we're seeing a mismatch, not a huge mismatch, but over 100 points back in 16. So we have, but look at that. I mean, it's a typical method. You know, you shut it down. Now in an end game, I might even like to go c6 and open that up against the c pawn. Plus, we have the backward e pawn. You can look at that. We technically have a backward f pawn if they can get to it. But we have a lot of weaknesses. But I want the middle game because it's particularly valuable in the middle game because we've shut down. We've allowed their bayonet and actually reversed it on them, made it counterproductive to the extent that we shut it down, bypassing it. Sometimes they'll do that with c4, but they again, like they want more rooks on the board and stuff. They need more firepower. They got nothing here. Bishop's blocked, queen's not doing anything, rook's not doing anything, knight's not in the game, and we got a knight in there. Our queen's aiming in, pawns are coming, king's exposed, bishop can shift. Maybe f5, f4 is a sack or something. E3 can happen. Knight, we can quickly reroute the knight, e7, f5, hitting g3 and e3. Yeah, so you can just see in a few moves this can. But really, h4 is just coming now. So what does he do? How does black win? Let's see the end. So we get bayonet followed by, so 2 strikes, second strike, h4.
Oh, wow.
Apparently that's a blunder. They should have gone the knight. Guys, remember that knight f8, knight f1, knight c8, very useful defensive move, right? Remember that.
Mm.
And besides, a lot of times you can reroute it. I forget, did Firouzja do that from here, or did he come from e7? I think he may have gone there. No, how did he somehow he got his knight to g6 to f4 or something? I forget exactly. Maybe it was from e6. I forget. I remember. Anyway, he found a way to reroute it. Okay, nice and snug. It's giving -5 almost for black.
Oh my gosh.
Killer attack. Is he going to reroute the knight? He's just going to go on the h file. It's like a dragon type.
Yeah, it definitely has a dragon feel to it.
Yeah, he's a dragon. Well, and well, I mean that stems from just h file attacks, but we do see it a lot in the dragon, exploiting the fianchetto, and he resigns because that's how many moves until mate? It says mate in 6. What's going to happen? Say he tries to come out this way. How are we going to catch him?
Queen.
Little quiz to finish it.
Queen h1.
Yeah, I think it's superior to h3, right? So h1,
Yeah,
king
h1.
h2.
Hi, Matt. Happy Thanksgiving.
See you, Matt.
Thanks. See
Enjoy.
ya.
Yeah, Matt.
Good to have you back. Yeah, a couple of guys came back after it's been a little while. So queen h1, king f2. What now? Queen f3?
Yeah, queen.
We pretty much only got our rook. We've got our rook, our queen, and this pawn is a wedge, you know, creating this mating.
Mhm.
So rook,
F3.
now what? Queen f3?
Yeah.
Lure him back. Wait, it's less than 6. Maybe this is if they had gone wrong.
If they throw everything in front, maybe.
Maybe they would have had to take this way. I don't know. But yeah, they're getting mate. It's mate in 3,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
1,
yeah.
2, and we lasso him back. Oh, you guys got to look at that. I saw it on Twitter/X. The 25 move checkmate. But it's not like you have to calculate 25 moves. You need to see the concept. It's kind of cool. It like unfolds itself as you go because you start chasing the king. It's just very clever the way the composer set it up. Look it up. It's a 25 move checkmate.
Okay,
It's pretty cool.
definitely will.
Let me know if you can't find it. I'll just Google it real quick. But yeah, do you guys have any questions about the game?
No, that was a nice finishing touch there.
Yeah.
All of
Really,
it was
which
this
game
was a
was
great
it?
class. I'm glad I was able to catch most of it.
Likewise. Yeah. I don't even know what happened to our Firouzja game. I think I probably went forward or something. Was it this one? Maybe I went forward from it. Yeah, I think this is it. I don't know where it went. But anyway, you got the idea, right? The bayonet. But interestingly, it's not just like randomly bayonet. He didn't have the precursor in the traditional sense in terms of the why don't I go ahead and just do board editor then? Yeah. So in the traditional sense, let's just do bare bones real quick, just so you could break it down. So traditional sense with the pawn chains, right? So we have the white pawns were like this. Oh wait, where? No, where were they? C3. Yeah. The white pawns are like this, are they not? Yeah. And the black pawns are like this. And we have the kingside pawns, but yeah, just to give you a sense, right? So traditionally, white would have like rook on e1 and knight coming to e5, maybe bishop here, something like that, right? and then black, and they might even have f4. What if they do that, right? And the bishop might be on G. That'd be kind of cool, right? And we have a rook lift, right? There we go. Okay. And then as for black, we would have something like, conceptually like this, maybe. As you said, Nikki, maybe whatever, something like this, right? And we have lots of play on the queen side. That'd be nice. So we'll give black a queen, whatever, something like this, right? And we'll try it, we'll crash through, right? So it might look like this or something. So you can imagine the bare bones though, and you add some pieces. Now, interestingly, so we had him, Firouzja, choosing to play on, where do we have it? It was like this, but he chose to suddenly go f6, and then he shifts his structure. But remember, it wasn't random. It's because he had the knight coming in here, facilitated by the queen and bishop. And then remember, we had, what was the thing that white did, which
H3.
allowed, he played h3. So h3, keep in mind, it's actually a weakening move. So obviously g3 is, right? Because we know all about, we know all about that. And the queen, we know all about, oops. we know all about that. There we go. Okay. That would be nice, right? We got a lot of pieces. This is bug house. Crazy house. But we know all about that. But keep in mind, when there's h3, we can sack on h3. So a lot of times like this, you'll see this a lot in Roy Lopez positions, right? So let's go ahead and show like a Roy Lopez setup, right? Or Italian game, just to give you a sense, right? So just bare bones, right? Let's say it's black who ends up trying to exploit this. The knight will come in, right? And then a lot of times the bishop will have to retreat to f1, right? And a lot of times black does that, since white might attack first, but certainly black can be the attacker too. A lot of times black will play bishop f8, but they can go like this, and then they can go like this, and bishop g2, or let's say the knight has to leave. Although like the Firouzja game, maybe they sack it, but assuming it has to leave, and then they try and shore it up. So you can see the fianchetto can help, but then hey, black is coming at him with h5, h4 or something. But yeah, and sometimes the knight might even stay there. Might just stay there and be like, okay, you want to go g3? I go g5. Aha, bayonet. And that's like the Firouzja game, right? We got a king here, we got a rook here. Again, this is just conceptual, right? But yeah, now I opened it up. This is literally what Firouzja did, right?
Yeah.
Was it a bishop though?
Yeah, I think there's
I think
a
it was a
bishop.
bishop in there, pinging the bishop, and then the knight was doing something else or whatever. The knight was ready to fork him, right? Oh no, the knight, it was like this. In that game, it was like this. But you see, same concept, right? And by then, of course, we had our g5, g4. So there's your Firouzja game, right? But keep in mind that these pushes, again, it's conceptual, right? You gotta try and make it happen. And clearly here, I think both h3 and g3 were mistakes. I'd be curious to see whether he had something better than g3. I mean, h3 is like, okay, that's hard, kind of hard. Again, kind of blindsided him. Like he didn't know that this was coming from move 7 or whenever he did this, right? And then by move whatever, a few moves later, suddenly Firouzja has f6, g5, and starts marshaling his forces. Like, oh wow, that's really hard to stop. And then I really think though the conceptual mistake, the strategic mistake was over. What was the mistake that he made over here on the queen side?
What did he do? I think, did he trade his bishops or something?
Well, good move c4.
Oh, that's right.
Good move c4, not so good what?
Pushing
c5. I don't think so. I mean, it didn't turn out well for him in hindsight. But look, I mean, when you play c5, I mean, fundamentally, you release tension. Sometimes you try to win that way. Sometimes you have like, there are lines. I'll show you one more thing. Oop, it's clear board. One more concept. It's funny. I used to actually love to win this way a lot when I was starting out, like playing a lot in middle school and stuff. I was experimenting. I love to make the house setup with t4. It's a great way to play. It's very easy in a way. But like, let's say I'd play maybe a London type of thing too. No, with the Queen's Gambit though. It's a different version. Well, let's say I prefer it with c4. Honestly, I don't think the line is that aggressive. But this is strong. Bishop f4, bishop g5, and then I would often bypass. Probably was inaccurate sometimes, but this is how Kasparov. No, Kasparov beat deep blue once, or deep junior, whatever it was. I think it was deep blue, by going bishop here and playing for c5, and he kept it tight. And he went like here and ended up winning. Understood it more because the computers were really bad at close positions back then. But you could do this. This is and you really want to keep your grip here. So that, because the thing is, whenever you play c5, and now we're going back to the Steinitz-Zuckertor game, And here you go. Hits him with c5, bishop c7, rook e8 maybe, like this. So the moment that happens, next move, e5. But it would have been problematic before, see? Because then you might lose this pawn with the bishop here, whatever, like this, or just having a rook here, then suddenly you drop your pawn or it comes under tremendous pressure. But by playing c5, oh, once you have this structure, oh, there's nothing here anymore. Boom, e5. In Steinnitz's game, he plays e4. So look up the first Steinitz World Championship. Look up Steinitz Zuckertort, and you'll see this. This is exactly what happens. The same piece placement. I forget where White was. Maybe White was like, probably he was here, under maybe here. But yeah, and then White was focusing so much on the queen side that he got crushed in, well, the center, which transferred very quickly over to the king side, and we had a bayonet. Well, similar to the bayonet attack which is kind of a quasi bayonet, I call it, but it does involve the b4 pushing the king's Indian. And then here we'd have g5, and that facilitates c5 when it's actually good because it's striking at the center in a way. But here we would have this, right? But here you would have striking, and it's like f5, but it would be striking at with g4 and all this stuff. So, and again, keep in mind the bayonet's very flexible, and it may work by itself. It'll work usually in tandem with other pieces coming in, but it may also be like in a typical kind of dragon kind of thing, where White's going for, again, there's a different structure where White's going for like, this structure in the dragon, right? Where this is black structure. Right, and then the dragon and the h4. So we have g4, and sometimes, especially in a knight, I have to get g5 or h4. All right, guys, I got to finish it there.
All
Great
right.
class.
Thank you
Have a
so
good
much.
Thanksgiving.
Happy
Take care.
Thanksgiving.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.